Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, the podcast where stories of trauma meet the healing power of Jesus. Each week, we journey with women who have walked through pain, wrestled through the process, and now stand in the promise of who God called them to be. This is more than storytelling. This is sacred space, where honesty is welcome, healing is possible, and hope is alive. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hey everybody, today's guest is a living example of courage, resilience, and purpose. Eldonna Lewis Fernandez is a retired Air Force veteran, international speaker, author, and founder of Baskets and Beads Kenya, a social enterprise changing lives through fair trade opportunities for Kenyan artisans. Her journey hasn't been easy. Eldonna is a victor over trauma of growing up with abuse, alcoholic parents, and navigating life as a high school dropout. But through grit, faith, and relentless refusal to be defined by her past, she's built a life that inspires and empowers others. Today, she shares her story of rising above hardship, her heart for global impact, and how one step of obedience led to a mission that blessing women half a world away. Follow her and her work on Instagram and Facebook at Baskets and Beads Kenya. So, hello, Eldonna. How are you?
I am awesome sauce, Wendy. Thanks so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And thank you for your service as a veteran. How long ago did you serve?
1980 to 2003. I was in for 23 years.
Oh, okay. And then got out right before everything went crazy.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I got out basically by the skin of my teeth because I had just been on a deployment after 9/11. And some intel people told me we were going to be going into Iraq. So if I wanted to retire, I better do it as soon as I got back. And they almost stopped me from getting out.
Woo. Yeah, I mean, I know people personally who actually signed up to go because they really wanted to. But I always believe, if you're meant to serve, you'll serve. And if you're meant to get out before something, let it be. And if you have the opportunity to try, I'm glad that they let you do so, because it's so, to me, if you're going to be a part of high end of combat, which I know Air Force isn't always involved in that, but they're involved in different ways versus the front lines. But still, war is war, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would love to talk about a different war, a war that, like, from your childhood growing up, on who made you who you are today. Do you want to share a little bit about the beginning of your story and how what God has walked you through with that hardship?
Yeah, both of my parents were alcoholics. I was late in life birth. My dad was 51 and my mother was in her 40s. And back then, a little old back then that was unheard of. Now you hear more and more people older having babies, but then that was not necessarily the case. As far back as I can remember, she drank, and I was born in Dallas, Texas. We were in Bay Village, Ohio for a while. My father was a business executive with General Motors. We moved to San Antonio, Texas in my first grade year. And I don't know, that I think accelerated my mother's drinking, and she had bottles stashed all over the house. And she actually died when I was 12.
Wow.
Basically dropped outside my door from alcoholism. That was her cause of death. And then my father basically shut off and really didn't parent me, didn't really care, didn't say much, no discipline, no love. Neither one of my parents ever told me they loved me. My mother told me constantly I was no good and I was this and that and all these horrible things. And then since my father didn't care, I dropped out of high school. And he just basically was of the opinion of, well, whatever.
Huh. So then what did you do after you dropped out of high school?
Well, I was running with the wrong crowd, and I was in an abusive relationship with a boyfriend, and I was going nowhere fast. And when I turned 18, I came home to an empty house and a note of eviction. My father had packed up and moved from Texas to Florida and didn't even leave me a forwarding address.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a note on the door that said, you have until the end of the month to get out. Anything that's left here belongs to me. That was from the landlord. And I had a job. I went and found an apartment and basically had a mattress and a few personal belongings and kind of lived like that for a while. And one day I saw a commercial about the Air Force. I always say it was God's perfect plan.
Right.
And I joined the Air Force, and it changed a part of my life. It didn't change the part where I was continuing to get in bad relationships, but it gave me the chance to have purpose, education, a successful career in the
Yeah.
contracting career field, which I'm still doing work in today. So I'm grateful for that.
So anyone that might have a loved one who, is going through something like that, or maybe someone listening and they are as well, um, not that necessarily the military is always the answer, but I know you shared like how much of a saving grace it was, but I, how would you were in there, so from 88 to 2003, so about 15 years.
Well, 1980 to 2003.
Oh, 1980.
20,
I heard
yeah,
incorrectly. Oh, I'm
right.
so sorry. So,
23 years. I was in for
oh, okay.
23 years, and I retired as a master sergeant.
Wow. Okay. So, anyone that might be listening, what was it like to be a part of the Air Force for 23 years? You travel. I mean, obviously, they like to give everyone the pie in the sky, amazing opportunity. Sometimes you get stationed places that are interesting and creative. And not that I haven't known people to have that experience, but how would you share with someone on the reality, especially when it comes to being a part of the Air Force, the opportunities that comes with it, as well as the education?
Well, the great thing was I stumbled into the contracting career field as a contract specialist, not intending to. I didn't even know what job it was. I kind of picked it off a list. And I had wanted to do something else, and they gave me this list, and they're like, pick one or I'll pick it for you. And that job had a higher required score to get in. And despite the fact that I dropped out of high school, I still scored very high in every area on the test. It's called the ASVAB, the test to get in to the military. I could have picked about any job there was. And I saw this list, and I thought, okay, I don't know what this is. I'll pick it. Ended up in that job. I had the opportunity, because most Air Force bases have a college campus, and you can go to school after work as long as you get approval from your supervisor. And took a couple classes a semester, and ended up getting my bachelor's degree in management, and a couple associate's degrees, one in management and one in contracts management. So that gave me the opportunity for the education. And then the Air Force to me became my identity. It felt like the family I never had. And those were the good parts. There were some bad parts, but those were the good parts that really changed my life.
Now, are you still connected with any of those friends anymore?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Super
Facebook's a
amazing.
great thing. I'm actually a member of a women veterans group on Facebook, women veterans over 50. So
Oh, okay. Well, that's really exciting. So, how did God meet you and in all of that pain? So obviously the Air Force, those people became your family. You said that, were in and out of even some toxic relationships, but what was the turning point and how did God meet you in that pain?
well, there's always that thing where you want to take control of your life instead of letting God have control.
Yeah, right. All the time.
I'm famous for that. I would give things to God, and then I'd go make my own bad choices. And then it's kind of like, okay, God, save me out of this mess that I got myself into. It took a lot of years to go through that. I actually, one time was in a relationship with a man who beat me up, and he choked me unconscious. And
Wow.
I always say that God kept his hand from going the rest of the way, because he had a purpose for me later.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see it then, because I kept making bad choice after bad choice after bad choice. And then I'd kind of go back and renew my faith, and then I'd go out and make another bad choice again. It was modeled for me, bad choices, because my parents were horrible, and they used to beat each other up, and I just
Mm-hmm.
thought that was normal. And I was
Right.
in a lot of relationships with alcoholics. It's kind of an attraction, because you're used to that kind of behavior, and
Sure.
that's what you look for. It's somebody treating you good and nice, and that doesn't drink or isn't an addict or whatever. It's not normal, at least for me. Some people go the
Sure.
other direction, and they get as far away from it as they could.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't for a very, very long time in my life. And I just say God had patience with me as I was working out my control issues.
Right. Well, and I don't know about you, but here I am at 47, and even in my prayer time, I learned from the sermon at church yesterday a little bit of different posturing in prayer. So where you like get on your knees and kind of like bow down, and I told the Lord, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it on the couch because getting off the floor just kind of isn't that easy. I don't want to be stuck on there. So here I am posturing differently, handing it over, and I'm like, Lord, this like help me to surrender all the things, and I really mean it, so I don't take it back. And it's like, and the thing is not everything do I take back. Some things I can relinquish easily. And it's like, here you go, have it all. And sometimes you're like, no, I want that back. Right. It depends on the category of where we have the most trust and faith in the Lord. And what's beautiful about, our Heavenly Father is He is patient with us and He teaches us, slowly over time. So would you say you've, become a little bit more of a master of it, that you can teach others how to do the same thing?
Yeah, actually, the ladies in Kenya, one of the things there's 4 pillars: walk by faith, pray without ceasing, read your word, put on the full armor of God. And I teach them all. That's what I love to teach.
That's so awesome.
You can put on the full armor of God. I've been doing a Bible study on the full armor of God, but prayer is the thing that activates the armor. And then
Okay.
you have to walk by faith. You cannot. It can't be like, okay, I'm going to halfway walk by faith, or I'm going to take it back for a little bit. Because my director in Kenya and we have a laugh about this. We always go off on our own. Well, not always, but sometimes we've gone off on our own tangent and we're wondering why it doesn't work. And then we just picture God saying, okay, whenever you decide to give it back to me, then it will work. Once you
Yeah.
realize that's not what I called you to do. I called you to serve these women. Don't be going over to these women and these women and these women. You're supposed to serve these women particularly, and others may come, but these are the women you're serving. And it's so funny that last year we were really frustrated because the quality of the product that we're making. Actually, I'm a big football fan, and we're making jewelry from the magazines, like necklaces and bracelets and stuff out of NFL team colors. And they made some last year, and we hadn't really taught them about quality and this and that, and they didn't look good. I'm like, I'm done with this. And she's like, oh, I'm done with this. And I just picture God saying, okay, I didn't tell you were done. Go ahead, have your pity party, but when you're ready to come back, I'll be here waiting.
Oh, that's so funny. And isn't it interesting that, how many years have you been serving in for God in Kenya?
Since 2018.
Okay. And, now that it's been 7 years, is that right?
7.
Yeah. How much, you can look back and see how God has moved you in different ways. And, even with my own business with Resilience Press, realize that, I knew God was telling me to do a thing. And so I start to walk forward, and it's not until like a year later that, here I do, I felt led to start this podcast through, business mentorship, encouragement, and, healed, whole, called, right? And then as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, now I'm understanding, Lord. Like, not everybody's writing books. Some people you've called to write their books, but some people are at the baby steps of just telling their testimony. And He had told me in December of this past year, like, hey, I want you to get the testimonies out, sort of like the cloud of witnesses type stories. And I thought He meant to create like a collab book. I was wrong. It wasn't until June of this year that I'm like, oh, I get it. And so it's funny how when God calls us to do something, we walk in step by obedience, right? And even with the stuff with you're making the jewelry and everything in Kenya, each step creates more and more clarity. And then you think, oh, I don't like this quality, I'm not going to do the beads anymore. He's like, yeah, but you are.
Right.
And
you are.
And it's so often, I think we as believers think that we have to get it right the first time, or that, okay, you get frustrated over here, but that just means there's more refinement either in ourselves, in our character, or in our patience. The fruit of the Spirit, right? All of that is meant to create additional refinement into who we are in Christ Jesus to fulfill the purpose and mission he has on our lives.
Most definitely. And I kind of look back on things because I was doing full-time speaking right before COVID. And then it dried up. I mean, I lost every contract I bid on. I couldn't get booked to speak to save my life. I had like zero income was coming in. I remember being curled up on the floor, crying out to God, saying, God, this was the path I thought I'm supposed to be on. What's happening? And it was months. And I had a little military retirement, but you can't live on that in Orange County, California.
Right.
And I thought, I have to go get a job. I don't want to do this. I've been going down this path, and I relented, and I got a job December 2019. I came back from Kenya 2 weeks before everything shut down. And when you're going through it and you're crying out and you don't understand and you want it to work the way you want it to work, but you don't understand what God's plan is, you don't see it in the moment. When everything shut down and there was no in-person speaking and I wouldn't have made anything anyway, I was grateful that I went ahead. He took everything out from under me and forced me to actually go do something that I would still be earning income, because I needed to still have something to support the business and the ladies in Kenya.
Right. I mean, he knows the beginning to the end of the beginning. He already knew ahead of time COVID was coming. And he's like, Eldonna, I know this doesn't make sense, but be patient with me and then you'll see. And I know that COVID was, a rough time for the whole planet for the first time for all, in history. All of us were affected all at the same time. And now here we are 5 years later, and we can start to see where God protected us or even led us separately, in how many great things were created because of it.
And what was really another interesting thing that I thought was funny when somebody said this to me, because I went to a veterans organization because I hadn't been in the job market for a while, and he said, oh, you're going to have trouble getting a job because of your age. And I'm like, well, God wants me to have a job, I'll get a job. And I went and applied. I applied a few places. One place I applied, they called me the same day and I got hired instantly.
Nice.
So it's like, okay, I see that there's something else going on here, and I'm sure God's going to make a path for me. And he did.
Right. Well, isn't it? I just get so frustrated. It's like, when you're young, like even my daughter who's 13, she was, Mom, I can see, like, she gets already seeing how, like, if you don't have experience, you can't get a job. Right. And she's not trying to get a job yet. She's just like, how do you get a job if you don't have any experience? I go, well, that's where education and finding someone who believes in to, minister to you, work with you, give you an opportunity. And then fast forward 50 years, boom, you have all this life experience. You couldn't possibly be more valuable to any company. And then they tell you, oh, you're probably going to be too old.
Yeah.
Or like there's a time, but recently I applied for a job just to try to bring extra income in, super overqualified. And they're just like, well, we're going to look and see if we can find more qualified candidates. I'm like, whatever. Well, I mean, I'm sure their stupid AI system rejected me because I didn't use the right keywords, which is so annoying at these days and age. So anyone who's out there job searching, just be patient. The Lord will lead you to the right thing. And I really think the main reason I got that rejection was because the Lord's like, will you please stop trying to get off the path I have you on? Just trust me.
Right. That's a walk by faith.
Right. And I really am trying, but I'm just like,
it's hard because we're human, and we, especially those of us who are recovering control freaks, we want to control everything.
All the things. So how did you get involved in Kenya in the ministry there?
In 2018, I actually well, actually 2017, I was speaking at an event, and I had a booth next to a pastor who had been going to Kenya for 20 years. And we sat for a couple hours during one of the sessions just talking about what he was doing in Kenya. And I felt a little something, but I was kind of like, oh, that's intriguing. And then there was another event that featured him and his ministry that I went to, and I just felt the tug on my heart. You're going to Kenya. I said, oh, okay, I'm going to Kenya. I agreed to go to Kenya. Unbeknownst to me, he's telling everybody the speaker is coming, blah, blah, blah. And he had me, I didn't know. I thought it was just I was going to be back in the background. I was going to be serving, whatever. We're just going to help people. I'll do whatever, pack stuff bags with stuff, deliver supplies, whatever. But he had me speak at every single thing we went to. And one of the first places we went was a place called Mount Elgon. And we went to this little church there. And I was supposed to speak to the women, and he tells me at the last minute, he was famous for doing that. Oh, you're not speaking to the women, you're speaking to the men. What are you going to talk about? Don't know. Can you negotiate with the devil? That's just what came out. And I did a little spiel and taught for the first time my little lesson on how to put on the full armor of God. And I'm highlighting this because there was a lady who was sitting way at the back of the church, waiting till everybody was done. And then she asked the pastor if we could pray for her. There were warring tribes. That's a place where there were two tribes, and they were warring against each other. And the other tribe had come through looking and tried to kill her husband. He ran off, and they gang raped her.
Oh,
She didn't know how she was going to survive. Well, unfortunately, I've had that experience in my life. So, God put me in the right place at the right time. I was like, everybody step aside. And I don't even remember what I said, but I prayed for her, and I told her that you can be whole again. Just trust in God. You can be whole again.
right.
It's horrible what you went through, but you can be whole again. And
that's
on one of the last trips, because I'm still in that, the pastor up there comes and is part of our stuff we do with the ladies, because we've done a couple of conferences up there in Mount Elgon, says that she's doing amazing. So, and we went to visit a bunch of other areas, and the last place we visited, or one of the last places, was called the Kipsongo slum, and it's a slum in Kitale, Kenya. It's little mud huts, no kitchens, bathrooms, running water. And the ladies, a lot of them pick food scraps from a dumpster, or they prostitute themselves to earn money. And we got there, and they were singing and praising and dancing, and just so happy to have us. We took them some supplies, some food packs, some blankets. I had brought some socks and underwear for the kids. That's something I still do. I take underwear for the women and kids every time I go. I raise money for some of those supplies. And met this one lady, Patricia, and she gifted me with a paper bead necklace and wanted sponsorship for her son to go to school. And then there were a couple other ladies that had some blankets with some products on them, and like seed bead baskets and necklaces and things. And none of us had any money, but as we're driving back to our place we were staying, the pastor said that somebody in a previous trip had given them a microloan to start the bead making businesses. And I went to sleep that night thinking about Patricia and her son. And I woke up at about 1:30 with this idea: buy some beads, sell them with your book when you're speaking, baskets and beads. And I thought, oh, that sounds cool. And I started to go back to sleep, and I say, I got the Holy Spirit whack. No, you're being called to something here. You can't go back to sleep. And then I was
acting like you're in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right. I'm writing all these things and all these ideas. And I came out and told the pastor, and he said, oh, that's a good idea. Because a lot of people will go with these grandiose ideas. They want to put a lot of money into stuff. I'm just wanting to buy a few beads. And Layla, who was working. She was one of the living there in Kitale. She lives in Nairobi now, but she was doing all the coordinating for the pastor for when getting things ready for when they come to Kenya. She has a degree in social work, and she had a heart for those women too. So God put us together right then and there. Didn't know where it was going to go. Started with 5 women. I brought back a third of a suitcase of beads, and I went to speak at International Women's Day event in March 8th, 2018, and basically sold out. And then the more I was speaking and sharing, the more I was selling out. And it's grown from those 5 women up to around, it goes between 25 to 30, 32. Some leave and go back to Lodwar, where they're from. They're from the Turkana tribe. And we've weathered a lot of storms, and we're just like during COVID, I can say I don't know where it came from, but I know where it came from. Every month we had enough money to buy about $800 to $1,000 worth of food packs all through COVID for about 2 years.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah, so that now our product line is expanded, and it's not just jewelry. There's dresses, there's dog bandanas, which they thought that was the silliest thing in the world, but there's skirts, there's aprons, all kinds of things.
Now, is that something that people just buy in Kenya, or can they buy them here in the States to support the ministry?
Oh yeah, as I have basketsofbeadskenya.com. I also have a space in a place called Fairtrade Long Beach in Long Beach, California.
Ah, that's
yeah,
so cool.
I bring the products or ship the products here and sell them here.
Now, while you're there with the baskets of beads, when you first started, or maybe the ministry that was there but already cultivated the soil of, hope and restoration and accepting Christ, has it been, have you been noticing any resistance to the gospel, or like, what's that been like?
No, these women are all believers, but the resistance comes from, actually, this last year we've had a lot of shenanigans go on. This last year we've had resistance from other people. I call it the crabs in a bucket thing, or so you have a ladder that's put down into a pit and people can climb out, but the other people aren't comfortable climbing out because they're scared of what's out there. They might have to change their ways, or they might have to do something different. So they want to pull the people back down. So our group is the only group there. There's been a lot of other groups started, and it's open to any woman that wants to come. But we've got 30 women. The rest of them, they don't want to do the work because you have to show up. We have prayer time. We have, certain things that you have to come to the meetings. You have to be part of the group, and you can't just wait till the person from the US shows up to buy and then show up. We had that problem for a while when we started doing our market day somewhere else, but because I have a market day, even though I order stuff, and I order stuff for them for me to pick up and bring back, then they have a market day and they bring out other stuff and I buy from them just to, help a little more. Like I need another 10 baskets, but they sell eventually. So, yeah, there's been resistance. As a matter of fact, Comic Relief out of London had built a building there, and there's some other, like a place that could have water, and we were going to rehab that, and we got blocked. We had an agreement with the elders and the city council member. Everybody signed a document, and then as soon as I left, they went to another city council member and stopped it. So I'm like, okay, we're going to get the school next door to do it. That's been 3 years. Nothing's been done. But and then they were blocking the ladies from using that building, because anybody in the community can use that building, but they were blocking the ladies from using that building because they don't like it that this group, why is this group still going? This group should fail. We want it to fail. Well, we have a hedge of protection around us by the Holy Spirit, so back it up.
Well, that's pretty amazing. And now on that website that you had shared earlier, if anyone, listening to this feels the nudge to contact you to get involved more, is there a way for people to do that on that website?
basketsofmeatskenya.org is the nonprofit side where people can donate or contact me. To either site you can contact me, or Eldonna@basketsofmeatskenya.com. We're always looking for help in any way possible. Like if you're local, definitely could use some help setting up pop-ups local to Orange County, Irvine, California. Can always use the like follow on Instagram, share what we are doing with your friends. Have me come speak about the ladies, and I can also teach the same thing that I teach them about the 4 pillars of faith. So
That's so amazing. Well, I would love for you to have a choice. Anyone that could have gone through, situations similar to yours in the childhood, or even if they're ministering to anyone in the world and could use encouragement, would you want to bless this audience with a prayer or encouragement? You get to choose.
Well, definitely. I mean, I'll just do a little snippet of encouragement, because it's you can drag that stuff. My favorite proverb is 24:6. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. And we think about that's kind words to other people, but that's not just kind words to other people. You have to say kind words to yourself first. You have to be loving to yourself. It's hard for you to give of yourself to others in ministry or anything else if you haven't dealt with your own stuff. I've had a lot of stuff go on in my life, but that has prepared me to be able to minister to other people going through it. Oh, you don't understand. Oh, I don't understand. Yeah, I do understand. And God let me go through that so I could help you to understand that I understand, and you can come out on the other side of it, walking by faith, putting your trust in him and letting him heal your pain.
Right. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I have, people in my life who are going through some terrible things. And their big question is, why is God allowed me to go through this? And I'm like, the big question is to ask God what you need to learn in order to help others that are going to come into your life later. And I know it's a terrible thing to try to have to think about so fresh in a wound.
Yeah, you have to be there's a term I've heard, wounded healer. You can't still be wounded from it. Like if I was still wounded from the assaults, the abuse, all that, it's not to say that Satan doesn't try to put those things in my head and use those things, but I have tools to counteract that.
Sure.
But and I mean, oh, if I could change anything, no, this is the life that I was meant to live, so others could see that it's possible to have peace in your heart and smile from the inside, no matter what you've been through, no matter where you've gone. I am a victor over my circumstances, not a victim of. I don't like to say survivor, because survive means to exist. Victory means to triumph over. And I had victory over that stuff.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time with us, Eldonna, for sharing your heart with us today. To our listeners, remember, your story isn't over. You are not disqualified by what you've been through or might be even going through. And with Jesus Christ, you are healed, whole, and called. Till next time, bye.
Thank you for joining us on Healed, Whole, Called. If this episode spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know that healing is possible, purpose is real, and God is still restoring. And before you go, visit resilience-press.com and download your free copy of Get to the Point of Self-Publishing, Wendy's guide to help you move from stuck to published with clarity and confidence. You'll find it in the free resources section. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, covered in grace, and always moving toward the promise.